Hello everyone, welcome to Byline Homeschool. I'm your Amrita ma'am. Today we are studying CBSE Class 10, Chapter number 7, Control and Coordination. So this is actually an accurate revision schedule where we are going to focus some of the area from where usually the questions are going to arise. Okay, so before that, we should know the focus area from where usually the board questions you are getting. For example, usually the questions regarding receptors, neurons, synapse, brain, sensory neuron and motor neuron, reflex arc, tropic movements, plant hormones and animal hormones. So let's get started with receptors. What do you mean by receptors? Where these receptors are located and what is the purpose of the receptors? So these are specialized structures which are locating all over the different parts of the body that are capable of recognizing and receiving the messages or the stimuli. Okay, for example, if I am going to touch a hot object, what will happen? Immediately I will take my hand back, because there are certain specialized structures present on my hand which can detect those change in the environment. Here the hotness is the stimuli, so that's called a stimuli. Okay, so these are specialized structures located all over the body that are able to recognize and receiving the messages or the stimuli. Okay, now before that we should know what do you mean by a stimuli. There is a change in the environment to which living organism responds are called stimuli. It may be heat, it may be cold, smell, taste, touch, pressure, gravity, whatever may be. Okay, so these are all the stimuli. So these stimuli, how we are actually getting sensations? Through the sense organs. So we have 5 sense organs, correct? So through these sense organs, it may be touch, it may be vision, it may be taste, it may be smell or hearing. So through these sense organs, we can take up the signals or the stimuli or the change in the environment through these kind of structures. So these are receptors. Hope all of you understood. Now, what are the receptors present in these sense organs? Coming to eyes. Okay, so the eyes, the receptors are called what? Photoreceptors. It is called photoreceptors. And what is the stimuli there? Light. Light is the stimuli. What about ears? It is called phonoreceptors. It is also, we can say, auditory receptors. It is also known as auditory receptors, which can sense the sound. Okay, coming to nose, it is called olfactory receptors, which can smell, which can sense the smell. So smell, that is the stimuli there. Okay, now what about the tongue? Tongue, it is called gustatory receptors, and that is actually taste. Stimuli is taste, and the receptors are called taste buds. So that is the stimuli in that condition. Okay, now coming to the skin, it is called tangoreceptors or thermoreceptors, or that stimuli is which one? Touch, heat or cold. So it's also called thigmoreceptors. It is called thigmoreceptors. Okay, so these are the receptors which are present in different sense organs. You have to study, you have to remember the different stimuli and the corresponding names of the which one receptors. Okay, now we will see how the questions, previous year questions, we are going to analyze. See, read the question, the part in which gustatory receptors are present in our body. So, gustatory receptor, where it is present? It is present in the tongue. So, option number C, this is the answer. Now coming this one, name one gustatory receptor and one olfactory receptor in human being. See here, the gustatory receptors are receptors for taste present in taste buds and it is present on the tongue. Correct? Then the olfactory receptor, where it is present in nasal chambers, which can send or which can detect the stimuli, that is the smell. So smell is considering as a stimuli in this case. Okay, so clear, understood? Now we are moving to the next part, next subtopic, that is the structure of the neuron. See, this is the structure of the neuron. it is consisting of three different parts. Okay, number one, this part, this is called a dendrite. This is the first part, dendrite, and this part it is called a cell body. This is called a cell body. This part it is called which one? Cell body. And this part, okay, this is called axon. This is a long branch is present here, that is called axon. And then last one, it is the nerve endings. So these are the structures regarding the neuron. So it consists of what and all parts? Number one, it is dendrite. It consists of dendrites. Then number two, it is consists of cell body. Then number three, it has a long branch like structure called the axons, and then fourth one, it is the nerve endings. Okay, so inside the cell body we have cytoplasm, where a lot of granules you can see. So these granules are called Nissl granules. It is called which one? Nissl's granules. These are Nissl's granules. Okay, so these dendrites are branched like structures, and these dendrites, they only receive the signals from the sense organs. Okay, so these are dendrites. Then dendrites followed by which part? It is actually moving into the cytoplasm, where it is known as the cell body, and one of the longest branch, that is called a axon, and these are also called axonites. Okay, axonites, and then axonites leads to a bulb like structure. This is called which one? That is called the nerve endings. So this is the structure of a typical neuron. Okay, sometimes questions you will get, draw and explain the structure of a typical neuron. So then you have to draw this figure, then you have to identify or you have to write the different parts of the neuron. Okay, now coming to the different types of neurons, we have myelinated neuron and non-myelinated neurons. See, if you have observed here you have the nucleus. See, what's the difference between these two structures? See here, in the longest chain, that is called the longest branch, which is the longest branch, that is the axon, you have some specialized structure. This is called myelin sheath. That is called what? Myelin sheath. Myelin sheath. So, some of the neurons in our body, it will be myelinated. That means axons have myelin sheath. But some neurons, they don't have this one, myelin sheath. Okay, so they are called non-myelinated or unmyelinated neurons, and those which have myelin sheath, they are called myelinated sheath. Now, what is the advantages of having myelin sheath? See here, suppose, see, one signal is always will enter through the dendrites, okay, then it will move to the cell body, then it will move through the axons, then it will coming to the nerve endings. This is the direction of the nerve impulse. So, in this case, see, if a non-myelinated sheath, this nerve impulse transmission will be very slow. It will be very slow. But if the neurons having the myelin sheath, it will helps to jump the signals from one area to another area, and this part it is called nodes of Ranvier. This is called nodes of Ranvier. Nodes of Ranvier. So what will happen? These signals from jump, and this kind of signal transmission, it is called saltatory propagation. So that and all you don't want, you will study class 12th or class 11th chapter. Okay, wow? So here, so this will helps to speed up the nerve impulse transmission. So in unmyelinated sheath or neurons, the transmission of the nerve impulse will be very slow. Okay, whereas myelinated sheath neurons, that nerve impulse will be very speed because of saltatory propagation. Okay, it will be highest speed, so it helps to quick transmission of the nerve impulse through the neurons. Hope it's that clear. Now we have another type. We can classify the neurons into unipolar, bipolar and multipolar neurons. See, if you are observing the figure, you can itself can differentiate What is the difference between unipolar, bipolar and multipolar neurons? See here, in unipolar, see a single elongated process with the cell body located off to the side. That means only one dendrite and then one cell body it is present. This is called unipolar neurons. What do you mean by bipolar? Two processes separated by the cell body. So see, cell body, it is actually separated by two processes, one here, one here. This is called bipolar. Multipolar means what? See here, more than two processes, a single axon and multiple dendrites. So here a single axon and then multiple dendrites are present. So they are called multipolar neurons. Next coming to the direction of the nerve impulse transmission. Usually you will get questions. See here how the direction of the nerve impulse. See, it will start from the dendrite. Okay, so through these dendrites are capable of receiving the environmental change, or it can detect the stimuli. Then from here where it will reach to the cell body. Then it will move through the axon, and where it will reach to the nerve endings. Clear? And this junction between two neurons, this is called what? Synapse. So synapse is the junction between two neurons. So if the question, if it is coming, how you can write the answer? So from dendrites moving to the cell body, then axon, nerve endings, then synapse, then the dendrite of the next neuron. So always remember one thing, the nerve impulse transmission is unidirectional. That means from one dendrite to the nerve endings. Okay, dendrites to nerve endings. Then again it is moving to the dendrites of the another neuron. And this first neuron, it is called presynaptic neuron. This is called presynaptic neuron. That is before the neuron. That neuron name what? That is presynaptic neuron. And this neuron, it is called post. So after the synapse, that is the postsynaptic neuron. Postsynaptic neuron. So in this junction where certain chemicals are present, that will help to transfer the electrical signal into the chemical signal, then it can be converted into the next neuron. Is that clear? So what is the direction? Dendrite, cell body, then through the axon it will reach to the which one? In nerve endings, where, or you can write the synapse, then it is moving to the dendrite of the another next neuron. So always remember, it is unidirectional. Movement is unidirectional. Hope it's that clear, the direction. Now see one question. Write A and B in the given flow chart of the neuron through which the information travels as an electrical signal. So it's a 2018 number question. So here they have given dendrite. Then dendrite, where it will go? It will go to the cell body. Correct? So what is the A option? A is actually cell body. Then where it will move? It will move to the axon. It will move through the axon. Then it will end point of the neuron. That is the nerve endings. So what is the answer? A, cell body, and B is the axon. Understood how the questions you will get? Okay. Now coming to the synapse. Sometimes 2 mark defines synapse. So if the question is coming, how you can write? A synapse is a gap between two neurons where nerve impulses are transmitted by the neurotransmitter. So or you can write what? The junction between two neurons where one of the nerve endings of one neuron, presynaptic neuron, it is actually connected to the dendrites of the postsynaptic neuron. Okay, so otherwise, very simple way how you can write, it's a junction between two neurons. Okay, so here this is the synapse. So if you are enlarging this part, it looks like this. Okay, so this is the nerve endings of presynaptic neuron. This is the dendrite of the postsynaptic neuron. So in the nerve ending, what happened? You can see some vesicles. Okay, these are called vesicles, where you can see a lot of bubble-like structures. Okay, they are known as neurotransmitters. They are known as neurotransmitters. So always remember, see, these signals are transferring in the form of electrical signals. Transferring in the form of electrical signals. So what will happen when the signal reaches to these nerve endings? What happen? These vesicles will move towards the synapse, okay, towards the synapse, and this area it is called the synaptic cleft. This is called that space between two in the synapse, that is called a synaptic cleft. So what will happen? So this vesicle will reach near to the synaptic cleft and it will burst. It will release all the neurotransmitters outside, and these neurotransmitters will come and bind to the receptors present on the dendrite of the postsynaptic neuron. Okay, imagine two neurons. This is the presynaptic neuron, this is postsynaptic neuron. There is a small gap here, that is called a synaptic cleft. Okay, so how the electrical signal is reaching? Through the that electrical signal, once it is reaching to the nerve ending, what happen inside? There is a lot of vesicles. In the vesicle, they are filled with the neurotransmitters. Okay, so once it reaches the nerve endings, what happen? These vesicles, it will come and come near to the synaptic cleft, and where it will burst, it will release all the neurotransmitters in the gap, that is the synaptic cleft, and these neurotransmitters, where it will go and bind? It will go and bind to the receptors present on the dendrites of the next neuron. This is how an electrical signal is transferring into the next neuron through chemical substances. So they are known as neurotransmitters. So one of the example for neurotransmitter is acetylcholine. Acetylcholine. So please note down this name. Sometime you will get some question out of this. So one of the example it is acetylcholine. Okay. Now, how the question? See, why does the flow of signals in a synapse from axonal end of one neuron to dendritic end of another neuron takes place, but not in the reverse direction? Explain. Okay, see, if the question is coming, you should remember about this concept. What? The nerve endings, there are vesicles filled with the neurotransmitters, but dendrites, they don't have any vesicles with the neurotransmitters. Okay, they have only the receptors. So the neurotransmitters will release to the synaptic cleft, where it will go and attach with the dendritic of the another neuron. Correct? But it will not happen in the opposite direction, because there is no receptors on the nerve endings to capture the neurotransmitter. That is also not present in the dendrite. Okay, so at the synapse, that is the functional junction between the neurons, axon terminates, comes to close proximity to the dendron terminal of the next neuron. Axon terminal is expanded to form presynaptic nerve, and other dendrite terminal forms postsynaptic depression, where it will, which one neurotransmitters will be released, and it will go and attach to the receptors on the dendritic cell. This is how you have to. So please put two more points here. What that means? Vesicles present in the only in where? Only in the nerve endings of the of presynaptic neuron, and the receptors are present. Receptors are present only in the dendrite of the postsynaptic neuron. That's the reason it is not possible to reverse the direction. Always it is unidirectional movement of nerve impulse. Okay, hope it's that clear. Now there are two types of synapses. Number one, that's a normal synapse. That's the junction between two neurons. It is called which one? Synapse. Then what do you mean by neuromuscular junction? This is also very important. So suppose there is a junction between a neuron and a muscle. It is called neuromuscular junction. So this the normal synapse means what? Junction between two neurons. So neuron plus neuron, that is called synapse. Okay, then one neuron plus muscle, that is called neuromuscular junction. Neuromuscular junction. So usually you will get some questions. What do you mean by neuromuscular junctions? Hope it's that clear. Okay, now moving to the another question. Draw a diagram of neuron and name and label the part. Now you know how to draw and how to label all the parts. Now see the questions. Where information is acquired? Where information is acquired? Just now we explained where dendrite. Okay, only through dendrite we can acquire the information. Now, through which part, through which information travels as an electrical impulse? Through which part? It is through the axon. It is through the axon. Where the electrical impulse must be converted into chemical signal for onward transmission, that is through the, tell me, that is through the synapse. So through the synapse, the electrical signal is converting into the chemical signal. Understood how the questions you will get? Clear? Okay. Now moving to another type of classification of neurons, that is sensory neuron, motor neuron, and then interneurons, all called relay neurons. It's also called which one? Relay neurons. Relay neurons. Okay. So what is sensory neurons? From the sense organs. Okay. From the sense organs. Okay, the signal will going to the central nervous system. These neurons are called sensory neurons. From the central nervous system, if the signal is sending back to the sense organ, that is called motor neuron. They are called motor neuron. That this is called sensory neuron. And there is a connection between these two, that is sensory to the motor. That neurons are called which one? That is called relay neurons. So between two sensory and motor neuron, there should be some connective neurons. They are called interneurons, or it is also called relay neurons. So this is another type of classification. So sense organs to the central nervous system, sensory neurons. Okay, central nervous system to the sense organs, that's called motor neurons. And the connection between these two, it is called the relay neurons. Okay, clear? Now moving to, so it's the same point only. Here in this case, what I told you, that is that sensory neurons. Okay, these are the sensory neurons. So this from the nerve, this is the central nervous receptors present in the skin. Okay, so sense organ, from the sense organ moving to the spinal cord. This is the central nervous system. They are known as the sensory neuron. They are known as the sensory neurons. Sensory neuron. And from the central nervous system going back to the effector cell, that is the muscle, that is called a motor neuron. They are called motor neurons. Motor neuron. And there is a connection between these two, that is called a relay neuron or the interneurons. Okay, clear? Now the same thing only from the receptors moving to the central nervous system through which one? This is called a sensory neuron. This is called a sensory neuron. Then from here, that's the central nervous system to the sense organs, effector organs, that is called motor neurons. This is called motor neurons. And there is a connection between these two, that they are called interneurons or the relay neurons. Understood? Okay. Now see two questions from this part. Write the main functions of the following. So we are focusing only sensory neuron and motor neuron. These two I will be discussing under brain part. Okay, va? So sensory neuron and motor neuron. Sensory neuron, these often occur in sense organs and receive stimuli through the dendrites, and the sensory neuron transmit impulses towards the central nervous system and with the help of their axons. Or you can write sense organs to the central nervous system through the sensory organs. So this is a simple way of representation. What about motor neuron? The dendrites of these neurons synapse with axons of the interneurons in the central nervous system. They transmit impulse from the central nervous system towards the effector. Then later they will be responding to the stimuli. That is central nervous system to the effector organ. That is the effector organ. That is the motor neuron. That is the motor neuron. Usually relay neurons, usually they will not get, you will not get any kind of questions. Only study sensory neuron and motor neuron. If the question is asking the connection between sensory neuron and motor neuron, that is called relay neurons. Okay. Now, so moving to the brain part. So brain, it's the central part of the body, main controlling body part of our body. Correct? We can divide the brain into three parts: forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. Midbrain and hindbrain. So we are only focusing on how the questions is getting. We are not going in depth of the part, but usually the questions, what kind of question you will expect, only we are focusing on that one. Okay, clear? Now moving to the forebrain. It is the main part associated with the thinking. Very important point, because usually you will get which of the part is the main thinking part of the brain. Which one? Forebrain. It is the forebrain, and there are various receptors which are present in this part. Okay, the stimuli sensed and information already available in the brain are put together and interpreted. Okay, so the forebrain consists of cerebrum. It consists of cerebrum. Number two, that is the hypothalamus, and then optic lobe. Okay, so these are the important parts of the cerebrum. Forebrain. So cerebrum, this is the largest part of the brain. It mainly controls reading, speaking, hearing, thinking, vision, emotions and all other senses. It's all under the control of which one? It is under the control of the cerebrum. And also we have different lobes present here: parietal lobe, frontal lobe, temporal lobe. That and all you don't want, but just remember forebrain. It is the main thinking part of the brain. It consists of cerebrum, hypothalamus, and under that thalamus, pituitary gland and then optic lobes. Okay, now moving to the midbrain and hindbrain. Midbrain, it is only a connection between the forebrain and the hindbrain. That's all. What about hindbrain? Hindbrain, it consists of cerebellum, medulla oblongata, and then one more thing. So it consists of cerebellum, then medulla oblongata, and then pons. This part it is called pons, and then this is the last part, it's called medulla oblongata, and this tree like structure now, that is called cerebellum. Very important part, cerebellum. Now see the major midbrain and hindbrain. See here, the actions that happen without thinking are called involuntary actions. So these two are mainly responsible for the involuntary actions. All the voluntary actions will be in the control of which one? Cerebrum. But involuntary actions are under the control of which one? Midbrain and hindbrain. Okay. For example, blood pressure, salivation, vomiting are all under the control of the medulla in the hindbrain. Similarly, cerebellum, very important point. Okay, it is mainly balance and the posture of the body. So major responsible for the balance and the posture of the body. Always you will get this question. Okay, and then next one, it is medulla oblongata, that is it connects the cerebrum with the spinal cord. So here you should know that, so this is the cerebrum connecting to this one. This is the medulla oblongata here. It followed by which one? This is the spinal cord, followed by the spinal cord. And hindbrain includes some midbrain, pons and medulla. This already I told you. Now see here how the question: name the part of the brain which is responsible for the following actions. Maintaining posture and balance, which one? Just now I told you what? Cerebellum. Correct, option number 1. That is the cerebellum. Beating heartbeat. Heartbeat is always under the control of medulla oblongata. Okay, major thinking part. What is the major thinking part? It is the cerebrum. It is the major thinking part. And blood pressure all under the control of medulla oblongata. Okay, see, this is how the questions you will get. Now see the question number 5, B. State one function of medulla and cerebellum. So what's the function of medulla? Medulla, it controls the involuntary actions like heartbeat, respiratory rate, breathing rate. Everything is under the control of the medulla. What about cerebellum? It mainly controls the posture and the balance of the body. Okay, so these are the important questions you can expect from the part. Now see another accession recent question. The brain allows us to think and take action based on that thinking. Brain. The hindbrain is the main thinking part. No, this option is very, very wrong. Correct? So assertion is correct, but A is true, but R is false. A is true and R is false. So the option number C. Now this is the recent, this is from the recent sample paper. Okay, there was a cerebellar dysfunction in a patient. Which of the following activities will get disturbed in this patient as a result of this? Salivation, hunger control, posture and balance, regulation of blood pressure. So cerebellum, it is always related with which one? Posture and balance. So these three are all related with the medulla oblongata. Okay, remember one thing, cerebrum, it is forebrain part, major thinking part, and all voluntary actions. But what about the midbrain and hindbrain? It is all involuntary actions, and mainly you have to remember cerebellum, it is responsible for posture and balance. And what about the medulla oblongata? It is responsible for the regulation of blood pressure, heartbeat, breathing rate, respiration. That's all will under the control of which one? That is medulla oblongata. At least you should remember this one. Definitely you will get only this part kind of questions. Now we are going to discuss about reflex action and reflex arc. Okay, what do you mean by reflex action? So these are sudden unconscious actions of the body in response to the stimulus in the environment. Okay, so they are sudden and they are unconscious actions of the body. For example, withdrawal of the hand when we touch a flame. Okay, when we are touch a hot object, what will happen? Immediately we will take out our hand. Similarly, blinking of eyes when light falls on them. When light falls on them, we will blink the light, blink the eyes. Correct? So these unconscious actions, sudden actions are called reflex actions. So there is no thinking because it needs immediate response. That's why. Okay, so they are called the reflex actions. And then how the reflex action is happening, that pathway is called reflex arc. So reflex arc, it is a pathway of the impulse in a reflex action is called a reflex arc. It includes what and all? It includes receptor, sensory neurons, and then central nervous system, motor neuron, effector, or muscles or the gland. So the nerves from all the body parts meets in the spinal cord on their way to the brain because it needs immediate action. It is not, it doesn't have the time to reach up to the brain. So what happened? Immediately the spinal cord will respond to such kind of stimuli. So these unconscious actions are called the reflex action, and that pathway is called the reflex arc. Now we will take one pathway. This is very important 3-mark question. Usually you will sometime they'll ask draw the structure of a reflex arc and explain. Okay, now see here, see these are the receptors which are present in the skin, which will take up this particular stimuli. Then through which neuron if we move to this central nervous system, that already we studied through the sensory neuron. Correct? Through the sensory neuron it will reach to the spinal cord, and what will happen? Through the relay neuron, it will, that particular signal, it will reach to the motor neuron, and motor neuron, it will actually help the receptor organ, effector organ, maybe muscle. Okay, they'll give the information. Immediately our hand will be taken back. So this is what reflex arc in the case of when we are going to touch a hot object. So what's the pathway? So the stimulus, sense organ, and then the sensory neuron reach to the spinal cord, that is the central nervous system. Through the relay neuron, it will enter into the motor neuron, then to the effector cells, and then we are getting the response. So this is very, 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 very important part, a reflex action and a reflex arc. And this diagram, you have to study this diagram thoroughly. Okay, now see this is one of the sequence of events of focusing bright light on eyes are given below. So usually some old previous year question actually they asked about this one. Okay, so how the receptors which are present in the eyes, What are the receptors? They are the photoreceptors. So here you can write the photoreceptors present in the eye. They will catch up these particular stimuli. What is the stimuli there? Light is the stimuli, correct? So then through the sensory neuron, it will reach to the brain. Why it is not moving to the spinal cord? Because from eyes it is better, it will reach near to the central nervous system brain, because it will take time up to reach the spinal cord, correct? So here this brain, then through the motor neuron, it will give the information to the eye muscles, then immediately eye muscles will contract, then we will blink the eyes. So these are the sequence of events which are usually happening when focusing bright light on the eyes. Okay, please note down this one, very important question. Okay, see how the previous year question asked, reflex are continue to be more efficient for quick response. Justify the statement giving reasons. And also question number 13, define reflex arc and trace the sequence of events which occur in our body when a bright light is focused on your eyes. See the question, answer both same answer. Definition, you should write the definition. The pathway taken by the nerve impulse is called reflex action from receptor organ to the spinal cord and back to the effector organ is called reflex action, and that pathway is called a reflex arc. Receptor organ could be a sense organ such as eyes or skin, etc., and the effector organ could be muscles, glands, etc. So when a bright light focused on the eye, receptor receive these signals and the impulse is generated, and it will pass through the sensory neuron. It moves to the brain. Brain sends the impulse to the motor neuron, which contracts the pupil. So the sequence of events can be summarized here. That is the photoreceptor in the eyes, sensory neuron, then brain, motor neuron, then eye muscles, immediately contraction of the pupils. Sorry. Okay, so these are the expected questions from reflex action or reflex arc.